Yeah. It suits it well though. It really suits the car. Yeah, yeah, yeah. 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 Yeah, I'm actually going to start using this car more for other drivers because it's really really good as a practice car, and I think they've improved it because I remember this used to be a little bit more. It was always kind of slippery, but it used to be a little bit less real feeling. To me, it feels like they changed the tire model on this car, and now it behaves, in my opinion, a bit more like a real car. So, I think this is good. So, I think what we should have you done any laps on this track already, in this car? Okay. The good thing is it's a pretty short track, so and there's not that many corners, so we'll be able to work through it. You know, quite a few laps, quite a few times. Yeah, it's like just over a minute per lap, so it's quite quick to get back around to the start line. But I'll just go over how I think you should drive the lap. I'll show you an onboard. I'll show you the kind of lines I'm taking. But this is quite a. I think this can be quite a straightforward, like back to basics, like how to pick the best line, how to be on the limit with the car through each corner, why we are choosing to use an apex where we're choosing, all that kind of thing. Like kind of quite a simple session in this car and track. If there's anything different you want to know, as always, let's just talk about it. Just ask. But if you're planning to race this car here, let's just try and get you as comfortable as you can be in it, and make sure you're not leaving anything, that leaving any lap time that you could be gaining or making any mistakes that you don't need to. Let's just get you pretty comfortable with it. So first things first, I'll show you a lap on board with me. So I don't know which one of these is best to go with. I know the last one was the fastest. I can't remember. I did several here that were all pretty close together. Some of them were probably like more accurate than others, even if the lap time wasn't quite as good. I think it was because of a specific corner. Just I just didn't commit as hard, whereas other places were more accurate. Let's just go with this one and let's just see what it looks like. I'll turn it down because it's a little bit loud. I'm already recording the session, so we'll have all this up on the YouTube channel. But let's just see this one. Okay, so first corner, I'm going down to, what gear is this? I can't actually see my dashboard. So let me just move it down a little bit. I'll just angle this. Sorry, I just want to see. Does it tell me my gear on the dash here? Maybe not. Okay, right. So in that case, what I'll do then, before we look at the lap, I'll bring up the data of the lap so I can actually tell you. Because I have no idea what gear I'm in for each of these corners. I'm just going down to what feels like the right gear for the speed I'm doing. So let's grab it up here. Here we go. I'm going to guess second. No, first apparently. Okay, so all of the tight corners I'm first. Okay, well that's pretty straightforward. Okay, fine. So there we go. I don't need to worry about that anymore. Let's go back to the start line. Okay. I'm going to keep this this little overlay up, even though you can't see the steering. Just so we can see the brake trace. So I'm trailing the brakes, but it's not a dramatic trail. What I mean is I'm not braking hard as more and more lock comes on because the car doesn't have a lot of grip. There's quite soft suspension, and we're on treaded tyres. They're not sticky slicks. We've got no downforce to speak of. So if you're really trailing hard, you're gonna lose the rear too easily. You're gonna really unsettle the car. So you have to be quite precise with the brake inputs, and so you can see, although I am trailing, I am like very, very modulating, and I'm not hard on the brakes up to the apex. So, in fact, I'm never really braking hard. And there, I made a small mistake. You can't hear it, but you'll see on the throttle trace, I committed to full throttle, and just there had to lift because I saw I was going to run off the track. So, and that wasn't an off track, but it was damn close to being an off track. So, essentially, a few of these corners that are similar shape, this kind of long hairpin shape, we've got 3 here which are quite similar in profile. Patience is a real key. So, waiting to get on the gas is your friend. And as you saw there, and as you can see on my throttle trace just here, I committed and I had to lift. So it would have been better if I waited till maybe here to commit, and then I could have just stayed full throttle all the way. So that wasn't perfect. So that's a lesson from my mistake. I got a bit too confident, and then obviously the front washes out. And we'll find that in all of those long hairpins, you can get on the power early, and what happens is it washes wide. You know, you won't lose the rear because there's not really enough power, but you'll go wide on the exit, and either you'll go off or you'll have to back off just like I did here. So patience is key. You're also going to see that the apexes tend to be quite late in these corners. So, for example, here, there is where I meet the inside. So it's not, I'm not getting to the inside as soon as the curb begins. I'm getting to the inside somewhere later in the corner. And as always, you know this now, we've had enough sessions that you'll know this. The longer the straight is that follows the corner, normally the later you'll apex because there's more importance on the next straight rather than doing the corner as quick as possible. This one, the straight's not very long that follows it. So, where are we? We're here. The straight's only this long. So it's pretty important to get a good exit, but it's not so important that you completely sacrifice the whole corner. So it's roughly a middle apex, not super early, but it's not super late either. What was turn 1? Turn 1's got quite a long straight after it. And so I bet when we look at it, the apex is that little bit later. It's like there. And then I know we haven't got there yet, but this corner again, quite a long straight after it. And so the apex is kind of there. So past the halfway point. Anyway, back to the video. So yeah, so kind of in the middle, but it's not just that. When you look at the angle the car's at, we're kind of facing out of the corner quite early. The main thing is just get near the inside, but be at the apex somewhere in the middle, and then ready to get on the power, you know, as soon as you can get away without running wide. And as it happens there, I don't even use all the track because there's not very much time to get back over to the left. So there's a little sacrifice going on there. But we'll see how you naturally do it. I know sometimes I just get you to go and run some laps before we then talk about this. Because I've already done a load, I think we might as well give you some pointers to begin with. So this one, I had a few laps where I went through here in second gear. I think second. And then I found 1 gear higher was better. So where are we? We are here. Yeah. So I had a few laps where I stayed in second and let the engine rev. I found when I went up to third, just before that corner, I tended to be slightly quicker. It's going to depend how well you exit this corner. You might not need third gear to begin with. You might find that you still have plenty of revs left in second if you haven't perfected the exit of that second hairpin. So we'll just see. But second or third works. I found third slightly faster because it just let me carry more speed through here without spinning the wheels on the exit. And also being in third rather than second means when I do lift in the middle of this corner, or if I need to, it's not a violent weight change. It's more gentle because third gear doesn't drag you forward as much. But yeah, third gear, and really important to turn in pretty early here. You see how early I'm aiming at that apex? Because if you go late, you just never make it to the apex. You just wash past it and lose a load of time. So very, very normal, kind of typical middle of the corner apex for that 90 degree right. Bit of curb helps as well, just a little bit. None of the curbs here are very big, so you can get away with using them a little bit. Then from this point onwards, you can see we're full throttle from here all the way until the next corner, so you've got all this space to play with. You don't need to open this corner up, we just stay tight. So literally just full throttle and staying tight. If you had to open it up, then I would be immediately kind of backing off and getting over to the right, but you just don't need to. The car just sticks and you can just stay there like that. Because you can run a bit wide here, because there's still plenty of time to get back over to the left for this one. And in fact, more than that, running wide here helps you with the next one. Running wide in this middle part gives you an easier line into this one. So actually, staying full throttle around that fast left helps you a bit. And then we've got another one of these typical hairpins, slightly banked. So this is quite nice. It means we can carry a bit more speed in than if it was completely flat. So it's quite nice we've got that gradient. And it actually looks like a later apex on board than it was on the map. You can see I'm really waiting to get to the inside. I'm not getting here because the car would try and go off here. I'm like waiting now. It's when the car is really at its slowest speed that I deliberately get to the apex. And if you look at the speed down here, I think it really is. So it's going down, 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 there. And it really is when we get to the minimum, which I think is 66k, is like, that's where we're close, or 65k. That's where we're closest. From that point onwards, back to full throttle, using the banking to just kind of hook you round and drive off. And actually, there wasn't even any danger of running wide. But I feel like I'm being very patient with the throttle here. Look how long I'm off the throttle. I know you can't hear it, but you can see it on the map here. So you can see it's from here, nothing, 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 now. So it really is quite a long wait. Just letting the car rotate, then go. So if you try and get greedy on the gas, you'll probably lose time. You'll initially gain, and then you'll lose all the way down the straight. So getting it all the way around is good. And then obviously this is a straight. We don't need to talk about this. Final corner. This is a really interesting turn. So when I've driven this track before, I've done it in like Formula 3 cars with more downforce, and you tend to go early in. You tend to just turn in because the car sticks. This car doesn't stick if you do that, and if you go in early, you really sacrifice the exit. So it's a very strange line here. I didn't kind of look at the track and say, I'm going to start wide. I just drove it a few times and just found this line worked the best. And that is basically staying wide and then getting the car back to a very late apex there. And you don't have to use quite as much curb as I did there, but it seemed to work. You can use that curb if you want. But that meant I could get to full throttle and stay full throttle really for a really long time and get a great drive over the line. So you can see if you stay wide here, really from now. Okay, so we're at full throttle now, and we're quite early on in the corner. You can see there's quite a lot left to do, but because of this angle, you can go flat out. If you go in earlier than that, you're going to really have to delay your full throttle. If you were to go in here, the car's going to try and push wide. You couldn't carry this speed in, so I'm doing 151k. To carry that kind of speed in and go on that tighter line, the car's just going to wash out. So you have to compromise your speed, and you'll have to delay your throttle input. Just because of the nature of this corner. It's just weird. It's wide enough that this works. This late, it's kind of a combination of the kind of car we're driving and the shape of the track here. If, like I said, if you're in a car with loads of downforce, you could have the best of both worlds. You could carry the entry speed and it would stick because it likes high entry speed. You've got more downforce. You've generally got sticky slick tyres. So you might as well go a short distance and carry speed. We don't have sticky tyres or downforce, so we have to make a compromise, and that is on the line, basically. So we're going further, carrying more speed and getting a much better exit line. And it makes sense that that's where this curb is. Because if you have a look around this corner, there's no curb anywhere else. The curb, if the best line was to hit a curb early, they'd probably have placed a curb early. But then when you look at it like this, actually, that's only just halfway. It's just past the halfway point of the corner. So it's actually not a crazy late position. And our apex is maybe 2/3 of the way around the corner, just there. But
I remember when I got there, I was like, I'm already inside the corner, but there's no curb.
yeah,
I was like, where is the curb?
yeah. It's strange, isn't it? It's strange, but now I'll show you it in full speed in just a second again, and then we'll get you to do some driving. But basically, we don't want to go under the track. Basically, with the lack of grip we've got here, but we still want to carry speed, going wide there just allows you to carry that speed for longer, and it lets you angle yourself towards that nice late apex, and it then lets you get on the power earlier. So it's basically our way around dealing with the lack of grip we've got. So let's just do a full speed. Sorry, go on. Let's have a look. Oh, let's have a look. So this is the lap. Let's just get to the end because I can't remember. Let's have a look. There. So I'm braking, just not as hard as I'd have to brake if I wanted to stay tight. So I'm braking, but it's quite early on in the corner, and it stops quite early on as well. So braking here, just so we don't run off the track. And from that point onwards, and I tell you how you know when you've braked enough, is when the front end actually starts responding how you want. Because if I didn't brake, obviously I'd turn and it would go straight. It wouldn't turn. But by braking, I'll go in slow-mo. When I do this brake, now when I turn the wheel, the car actually goes tighter, and it keeps going tighter. So it's like, okay, we're going slow enough. It's that initial input. It's quite difficult to see here. It's difficult, even in slow motion, it's difficult to see what I'm talking about. But essentially, my driving brain is looking out for the reaction of the car. I slow it down, I start to turn right, and the car goes right. So I'm like, okay, that's good. We've slowed it down enough to make it. Also, I've stopped running wide. You know, if I was still going closer to the grass, I'd be thinking, shit, I'm going to run out of space if I don't slow down more. But I'm obviously, as the track's getting closer, so the edge of the track's getting closer, it happens too fast if I play it in full speed. As the edge of the track's getting closer, I'm like, oh, I can feel we're just sliding closer to the edge, but we've now scrubbed off enough speed on the brakes. So you do your braking in that early phase. The rest of the corner, you can then, you know, spend your time and your energy trying to get back to the inside and getting on the power as early as you can. And if it... Sorry, go on, Jing. So I think if you were to actually do an experiment and go into any of these corners too fast and just turn, I think almost always it will be the front that will go. But I think what you're experiencing and what you're describing is if you are doing any braking, so if you're going too fast but you're also doing some braking, then obviously there's a much more of a weight transfer and the rear will go. So in fact, let's just do a quick experiment with you watching right now. Let's just try going. I'm going to go into a couple of corners, and I'm not going to brake. I'm going to just go in too fast. I'm going to see if I can make the rear come around instead of the front, because I want to know whether or not that's going to happen. So.
I am so good at spinning the car.
Okay, so I'm not going to brake. I'm just going to go in too fast. So it was just the front that time. Okay, so the car will repair itself. What I did see though is the rear began to move, but then the front washed out. So I couldn't actually spin the car. I could spin the car if I gave it a sharp input. Even then I couldn't spin it. Normally, if you give it a sharp input at the same time as you lift, there's enough weight transfer that you could spin. Let's try here. So I'm going to try and spin, but no brakes. Nope, just goes straight on every time. So excess speed will, in this car, apparently only cause understeer. However, you probably are always not just going in with no brakes. I would guarantee that when you're experiencing the spins, there'll be a little bit of brake as well. So let's do the same experiment, but this time I'm going to do a little bit of braking as well. So there'll be a much more exaggerated weight transfer. Now it's going to be easy to spin. So I'm going to go in here, a bit too fast, brake, round comes the back. So it's all to do with the brake pressure and exactly how hard you're braking with how much steering angle and from what speed. Obviously, if you're going from a really high speed and you're really slowing down, all the weight comes off the rear. When you're just lifting, there's not enough of a weight transfer. Yeah.
they come to the front, and then turn in the front,
Yeah.
and the rear are gonna lose some grip, right? Because they transfer to the front and they turn. So I guess I in those situations I need to slow down enough and don't turn.
And you need to slow down early enough that you don't have to give it a big amount of brake, because in this car with soft suspension and no downforce and no slick tires, you just don't have the same performance potential. If you're in a Formula 4 car, Formula 3 car, whatever, Super Formula Light, you can get away with that harder braking into the corner, you know, with the steering angle, because it doesn't have that same weight transfer. The suspension is much stiffer. Even if you brake really hard, not much weight comes off the rear. Even if it does, you've got excess grip anyway. So you can make it spin, but you have to try harder. This car doesn't need much of an excuse to spin. As you saw there, all I did was come into the corner, brake and turn, round comes the rear. So in that situation, the way to avoid that is to, well, you've got options. So you have to choose what the best option is for lap time, but you've got some options. You can go in slower, okay? If you go much, much slower, it probably won't spin, but they'll be slow. So we don't want to do that. You can brake earlier. That's good because it means you can brake more gently, but you don't want to brake too early, so you have to judge that correctly. But that's probably the best option. And obviously the other option, like I say, is to just brake more gently. But that then means, you know, if you brake more gently, you have to brake earlier, because if you try and brake gently and late, you'll just run out of track. So you have to find that sweet spot of the correct amount of brake pressure that lets you go in as quick as you want to, but isn't unsettling the rear. Actually, the fourth component is to be close to the edge on all of those things and be ready for the oversteer. Because you know the car is going to get sideways if you're braking into a corner. It's going to try and brake away. And the closer you are to the limit, and the more on the limit you are, the more you're risking the rear braking away, because you're trying to brake as late as possible, as hard as you can, but you know, not too hard. So having that ability to not be surprised when the back goes, and just be ready to catch it as early as you feel it, means that's like your fourth tool. That's the other thing that will mean you don't have to brake earlier. You know, if you're good at those little corrections in a car like this, in fact in any car, but it's more exposed in a car like this, then you're that one step ahead of all the other drivers. You know, if you can do that. And in fact, if I just show you here, I bet you see some corrections from this car. Let's just see. You don't need to see my let's go down a bit so you can see the steering.
I can see the steering from here. I can see it from here.
I'll go here so you've got both, but yeah, I know you can see it just here actually. Let's just see if there are corrections, because I bet I don't just turn. Look, there we go. Opposite lock, opposite lock, opposite lock. So I'm to go as late on the brakes as I'm going. I'll show you with the brake trace on this time. To brake as hard and as late as I am here, there is instability caused by that. I'm using that to my advantage because that extra rotation is helping me point this way as well. So as long as you don't let it go too far, you can use it, you know, in a positive way. But if I wasn't ready for that, if I wasn't correcting that, that would just be a spin. The car would just go, and it would get worse and worse and worse, and round you go. So yeah, your two options are never let it get to that point, which means you've got to go in a bit slower, brake a bit more gently, or be ready for it and catch it when it happens. And the best answer probably is to start off safe, but keep the pressure on yourself to go in as quick as you can get away with. And yeah, sometimes you'll catch a slide and it'll look a bit messy, but the more you do it, the better and the more precise you get at it. Nobody was born being really good at opposite lock, or, you know, really precise with corrections. It's anyone who's good at it is only because they've practiced. So that's the best thing. If you're at that stage, I'll be super happy. But yeah, you've uncovered a thing about this car, which is it will spin if you brake too hard whilst you're turning the wheel. That's it, because all the weight transfer goes onto the outside and the front. All the weight comes off the rear. The suspension's just too soft for anything other than that. You can see how much the rear moved there actually. So if you're comfortable with that, brilliant. If you're not comfortable, we'll just build in a bit more of a safety margin but as little safety margin as we can get away with until you're, more comfortable with it. So there we go. I've talked a lot, but I think we've probably you probably know the track enough that we can do some laps. I think we should, unless you've got any more questions.
No, this is great. Yeah, no more questions. That's fine.
Okay. If you, I was just going to say, if you go into that final corner a bit too slow, it will probably feel like you should turn in early because you're like, why am I going wide for no reason? I should just take the shorter line. So if you feel like, in fact, if you can even get to the inside early, you probably went in too slow. At the speed I entered the corner, there's no way I could have got it to the inside. It wouldn't have got there. So if that's probably a clue. If you find that it's easily going tight, go in faster, brake a little bit later, and you'll have to use that extra space. You'll be forced to go wide because you kind of need it. You need the extra room to slow the car down. And then it'll angle back. Yeah. Let's do it. And for the first few laps, feel free to. You don't have to be on the limit. You can kind of just place the car where we know the right place is, and then up the speed with every lap. And then you'll be in the habit, for example, in that last corner, you'll be in the habit of being on the outside. You'll expect the car to be there, and you'll just increase the speed a little bit each lap until it feels like, okay, now I have to be on the outside. So. So you see the point that it starts to wash out. So that line is not a bad line. I just think there's a slightly faster way of doing it in this car, that's all. And in some other cars, I would tell you to do the exact line you just did. Like a Formula 3 car, I'd say do exactly what you just did there. But you saw there's like halfway around the corner, it wants to wash out on the front end. Okay, so we're getting there though. Already that was a slightly faster entry. We're going to go in quicker next time. But that was good. You were forced into the middle of the track that time. We can probably just slow it down a bit earlier for that one. That's good though. You're good through there. This little section looks nice. So we're going to brake later and more gently. So the fact that you're able to get that tight shows we're going in a little bit slow. So we're going to go, it's going to feel weird because you'll think you're going to run out of track, but we're going to go in a bit quicker next time. And that speed was better. I think we were probably on the throttle a little bit too early. So remember, with these long hairpins, you can be completely off the gas if you need it to rotate more. So if you want it to stay tight to the inside and you don't want to have to wait to get on the throttle at the exit, that's it. Look how well it turned that time. It was like really, really nice rotation. So use that tool to your advantage in those long, tight corners. Okay, so this time into here, just brake a bit dangerously late and quite gently and see how far around the edge. So we can go even later than that. But that was better. That was definitely better. So this is good. I know it's still washing out here, but that's because we haven't kind of perfected the middle phase yet. But we're going to go in even quicker and later next time. There'll be a point, Jing, where you go in so quick, you feel like you've done it wrong, and suddenly it'll turn back towards the apex really well. And it'll kind of click, it'll feel right at that point. So again here, you can stay off the throttle if you want it to rotate, and then you can get on the power really hard when you want to get on the power. You should get quite a big lap time gain from that. That's better. We're getting there. Okay, we're getting... Look how... Okay, so the only thing that was wrong there is we went through the middle slightly too fast. So you could feel it. It initially was looking really good, and then it washed out in the middle. So, but the entry was the best entry you've done. It was really, really good. So the only difference is when you've gone in fast and deep, remember we do have to just slow it down enough that it points the way you want to go. So we're going to start with going wide enough that you can point the right way, and then we need to actually get it pointed the right way. And that's with that little kind of pivot on the brakes. But that was good though, that was good. You risked it more. Yep. 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 And then you see it washes out. Make sure you're facing where you want to go before you really commit to the throttle. So again, go in a bit too fast, so you have to go around the edge. Good. And then get it pointed where you want to go. That's it. You can kind of... Okay, so almost, we probably... Yeah, so you can kind of gently pick up the throttle at first, and then you can go for it when you know it's facing the right way. That was yeah, that was a bit too wide. This is, you know what though, that final corner was cool. It's nice to see the difference. That's more like it. Better line into there. Yeah, if you miss that apex, you lose so much time. Good stuff. So actually, that time, you could have got on the gas a bit earlier because you really got it turned round well. You were almost too careful at the exit that time, but... Okay, here we go. So, if you need it to angle better... Oh, lovely, Jing. Now you should be able to commit to the throttle or a little bit harder because you can use that green bit if you need it. You can go right out on the green on the exit. And yeah, if you feel it's understeering, just hold off on the throttle a bit. You don't have to be fully off, but maybe not fully on. So you just have to judge that because it's going to be different depending on what the car does. But you got your fastest lap on that last one, even though you completely messed up turn one. You know, turn 1, you went round the outside of it and you still got your quickest lap. So that shows you how good you did the final corner. Yeah, so because you're doing the middle part really well now, you can actually afford to get on the power earlier in that hairpin that you just came through. Right, let's try this again.
Yeah, I feel like they're usually like a bit of a late for the middle. They're even on worse. I feel like I'm a little too strong this direction also.
Yeah, I'm going to show you what we're doing differently when we look at data in a moment. I think you're trying to turn the wheel further than I am, and it's actually giving you less steering because the car's understeering. So I think we'll have a look at the amount of steering angle you're using, because I think we might be causing some of that understeer simply by trying to turn more. We'll look at that, and I also think we can still go wider on the entry. I think you're almost going all the way wide, but when you fully commit to the really wide line, you'll have a much easier middle of the corner. So, yeah, it'll be obvious when we look at the data. Oh, that's nice, Jing. That's nice. Yeah, okay. That was the best one. That was the best I've seen you through that. And look at the lap time as well. Really good. Okay, good stuff. So you're definitely getting more of a feel for that. And it's that's the first time you got to the apex. You went wide and you got it to the inside curb when you needed to as well. So that was good. We'll have a look at that corner. I'll give you some definite direction for that particular corner after this run. So we probably went in a little early that time. It won't be that slow, but you saw how it tried to really push wide.
Yeah, so the earlier I go with the slower I go to actually make the accident.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You have to fight your urge to get the car turned in. You have to kind of deliberately go wide because you know that it will be quicker on the exit and it will give you a big, big gain. That's okay. So let's maybe do like 2 more laps and then just have a little rest because you need it to process in your driving brain whilst you're not driving. You need time for it to just kind of sink in. 5 minutes. We'll look at the data. Oh, that's a much better line through there, Jing. Way better. You just don't need that extra downshift on the exit. If you're going to do the downshift, do it before the exit. So do it like near the start of the corner. Okay, well delayed. Oh, lovely. Lovely. And you can use that green if you need it. I know you had to back off a bit, so it probably showed you committed just slightly too early to the full throttle. But the entry line was great. That's okay. We can stop it there instead. So it's given us just an earlier stop. I'm gonna if you just hop out of the car, just jump back in the garage, and we'll get that data in a moment. Yeah, you're right. So you've begun. I'll go on that particular lap. In fact, I'll fast forward to just before you had that spin. You've started to go into some of those tight corners a little bit fast. So this is the one we just went through. And you see how you're understeering, you're winding on more and more and more steering. What we want to do is, if you sense it understeering, try to resist the temptation to add steering angle. So at this point here, if you feel it's not turning enough, just slow it down more. The quicker fix to understeer is to get it slowed more. Because if it won't turn with, if it's not turning with that much steering angle, it's definitely not going to turn with that much steering angle. You know, you were going too fast for that much steering, so you're definitely going too fast for that much steering. So just try and keep it roughly where it was and just slow it down a bit more. Then it'll fix the problem quicker, and you'll be able to get on with the corner quicker. You can fix it by doing what you did here. You know, it does eventually slow down. It just takes way too long. So it's just, there's a more efficient way. Right, let's get the data. Let's have a little look. So this is going to be really interesting because I think you're going to see quite a big improvement on the laps where you do that late turning. But I still think you're going to see there's still a bit more scope to really maximize it even more. So let's just go straight to that corner, and I'm going to just change the colors back to what we normally have, just so it's the same as always. But that was a great job though, Jing. That was a really good first attempt at that. So let's ignore the rest of the lap. Let's go straight to that final corner. And even though you're now going much wider than you naturally would, look how early you're still going in compared to me when you look at the blue versus the red. And that's why, even on your best lap, it still tried to wash out. Yeah, it still tried to push you wide here because you were tight here. So if you're wide here, you can be tight here. But if you're tight here, you're going to be wide here. So it's, you know, you're going to have one or the other. But what you were doing there is still way wider than you would have done before. So you've gone in the right direction. It's just the reason that you're not able to get the full benefit is because you're not doing the full compromise on the entry. That's it. As simple as that. It's just not obvious when you're in it. Now, part of the reason you're not doing that as well, part of the reason it's trying to force you wide, and part of the reason you're feeling you need to go in on that early angle is because of the speed you're doing. If I just zoom in here, you are going way faster than me on the entry. So look, you're like 10 kilometers an hour nearly faster. And so where mine obviously has this very obvious deceleration to a slowest point, and then from that point onwards I'm speeding back up. Look how much of a plateau your speed has. From here all the way to here, you're basically doing the same speed all the way through. And that's just because of that kind of constant radius you're on. Whereas mine is more of like one pivot, and from that point onwards, the corner's getting more and more and more open for me. Your corner is kind of like the same angle basically all the way around, pretty much, which is why the speed is kind of the same all the way through here. So we're just going to focus on going even more wide. Yes, late because I want to get all the turning done in this phase here to here. Well, or the majority of my turning, whereas you're doing more of like an average. We're doing the same amount of turning. We're going through the same corner, but I'm doing it all at once and then unwinding from there, and you're kind of holding it at one position all the way through. That's more what it is. So yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I'm braking, like you say, a little bit later, not a lot later. It's only the difference between there and there on the map. You know, it's like 5 meters or something like that, 5-10 meters. But as you noticed, I'm braking longer and harder when I'm doing it because in order to angle back towards that curb, I have to be going slower here. So don't feel like you have to go through the corner. Although I want you to enter the corner fast, you don't have to go through the middle of the corner as fast, because remember, you're going to get that benefit onto the next straight. You're going to get a really good exit if you sacrifice this a bit. Now, the problem is, when you first try and fully maximize this, you might go a bit too slow. You might end up under-driving it, but that's fine, because then you can build back up to finding that perfect sweet spot. But yeah.
I have no problem with go to A-back, and I did, but then the second half I go high.
Yeah. Yeah, so
Every lap I go back, like the second half I feel like I need to be
So, so that you know what to do now. Then you know what we need to change. I mean, that's not. That's just something we'll just keep working on. Let's look at some of the rest of the track as well. Let's see if there's anywhere else that we can find some time. So I said that it looked like you were using maybe more steering angle than me into some of those tight corners. So let's look at one of those tight corners. Let's go for this hairpin, the one we were looking at. So here we go. So here we go. When you look at the amount of steering angle there, you have not just a bit, 60 degrees more angle. It's about a third more steering you're applying. And so I think that is because you're responding to some understeer that is being caused by going in a bit too fast. Because look, from here all the way through the corner until there, you're going faster than I am. And at the same time, you're using more angle. Ah, look, we're in second gear. So here's the thing. Are you in second for all of them? Ah, wow, you did turn one in third. And that was your fastest lap. Okay, so all of the tight corners, all three of them, I'm down to first gear and staying super tight. So let's try that. Let's try doing first. That'll help it rotate. It'll also naturally drag your speed down a bit. But the main thing is just make sure you're not going too quick through the middle of those tight corners. Because you see the other thing it does. Look how much wider it pushes you on the exit. So you're quick on the entry, and then you lose all of that on the exit. In fact, when you look at the delta time here, you're 0.472 behind here. You gain a load of time on me, nearly 2/10 on the way in. And then by the time you get to the exit, you then lose 3 more tenths. So it's like a momentary gain, but it's unsustainable. So the tight, short line is the one. So just get down to first gear. If you feel it understeering, go even slower. But if you get down to first, it probably won't understeer. You'll probably be going slow enough. See if that's the same on the next one. Yeah, look, in fact, there's a pattern. All of the hairpins, so turn one and then this one. Look how you enter quicker and then come out slower. You enter quicker, out slower, and here again. So you can afford to go into the corner, up to the middle phase. This is turn one. Look how much quicker you are than me here. All the way through here, you're like 10k quicker. And then it obviously costs you on the exit. Because not only are you're travelling faster, so that's a benefit, but you're losing on the exit and going wider. So it's not only the speed, the distance you're travelling is also further. So slower and tighter in the middle of those tight corners will be better. But the biggest difference I still think will be... Oh, what's this one here? Ah, okay, interesting. I didn't think we'd see a big difference here. So this is that 90-degree right. Okay. Yeah, it's tiny, isn't it? I didn't even know. And in fact, even though I do that tiny brake, I don't actually lift fully off. The maximum lift is down to 22%. So, but I am turning in slightly earlier as well and using more exit. So, that's only one lap. Maybe on some other laps you did it slightly differently. But just bear in mind, that 90-degree right, you can carry a little bit more speed. You can just kind of ease off the gas and turn in early. You don't have to like brake and turn it in as hard. And actually, again, you're using a little bit more steering angle than me. Only 10 degrees there, though. So not quite as much as the others. Okay, so main things then. Let's go over the whole lap, because there's only 1, 2, 3, 4... There's only 5 corners, so let's just give you 5 things to change. Turn 1, we can brake later, and you can brake longer. So you see you're braking hard enough, but it's a little bit early, and you stop quite early, and then it tries to run wide. So we want to brake later, but be slower in the middle. So we're going to brake later, but brake for longer and get down to first gear. Then the next corner, we already spoke about this, but just a bit slower through the middle. Don't run as wide on the exit. If you're all the way wide over here, you're travelling further than you need to. So basically just get down to first gear. Same again. Really tight and slow through the middle. It'll drive off the corner really nicely. A little bit faster through that 90-degree right once the tyres are warm. Just like almost a full lift, but don't completely lift and brake. Kind of mostly lift and try to not really brake much. Next hairpin, again you can brake a little bit later and very slightly longer, not a lot longer. On this lap you did it pretty well. And I think, yeah, on this lap you ran a bit wide. On some of your other laps you actually came off a bit too tight. Just make sure you use all the track like the blue line does. Your line's quite good actually. We just came off a little bit early. Not sure why. Oh, I am sure why. It's because you went through the middle too fast. Yeah, it was 10. You were 10 kilometers an hour faster. So just make sure you're down to first gear. You see here, you get down to first as you're leaving the corner. We want to be down to first as you're entering the corner, so that it stays tight and you get the best drive off. And then finally, the final corner, we're just going to go even faster in, even wider, and we'll get it angled back to that late apex, and we'll be able to get on the power hard and early.
For those three hairpins, so like I need to go to the first gear for all three of them, but I guess like I should brake a little bit longer for all three of them. Is that right?
Yes, but the last bit of braking is very gentle. It's like I call it a maintenance brake. It's like a tweak. It's like you do the main brake and you trail in, and then you're kind of assessing, is it rotating enough? If it's not, you just kind of add a little bit of brake and it will immediately turn the car better. It's like lifting, except it fixes it quicker. You know, if you lift, if you on the throttle, it'll run wide. If you're off the throttle, it'll turn better. But if you brake a tiny bit, it turns really well immediately, and it means then you can get straight back on the power quicker. So it's kind of like a quick fix. So that's why I've got, you see these little extra bit of blue brake into turn one. There's these extra two little ones just to force it to turn better into turn two or turn three. These little extra ones here, just as I'm approaching the apex, just to make sure the nose goes in. It's like, get in now, you know, it's like force it. But it's only little. It's not, you know, it's what are we, 18%, 14%. It's not a hard brake at all. And again here, this little one here, it's all for the same reason.
Right. All three of them I got by. All three is here.
Yeah. And all three of them, you're going quicker than I am in the middle part of the corner. So your minimum speed is coming later than my minimum speed. So my minimum's here for turn one, and yours is here, and yours is always higher. So you're having a later, higher minimum speed, which obviously means you're going to run wider and have to wait longer to get back on the power. So it's good that it's a pattern though. It's because it means that when we change it, it'll change it in all of them. So
Basically, I usually do that. The minimum speed should be lower, right?
yeah, and earlier.
Lower and early means, and then I can basically fast
And
it out of it.
yeah, it means you're angled the correct way earlier. So rather than you're like, in fact, the best example is actually this corner here. I guess it's turn 3, but it's the second hairpin, where at this point here, because you're going in fast, look at where you're angled. You're nowhere near angled where you want to be. You're kind of, the nose of the car is facing over here. Even though the tyres are angled that way, the car isn't going that way. The car is angled like away from the apex over here, even though you want to be angled this way. And the further through the corner we go, the more angled wide it is. And by contrast, hopefully I'm gonna see what I hope I'm gonna see.
And when I did it there, it's not because it's because I think it's going too high. It's like I need a break because my entry speed is also higher than you. I think it's around the same.
So entry speed is you arrive there roughly the same, but all the way into the braking phase, you're going a little bit faster than me. You're braking a little bit more gently, and then you stop braking earlier. So you're trying to use the steering to slow down the car at the end, and I'm doing more of the braking with the brakes. So, and here's let's see if my car angles where I want it to go. So now, as we get to the middle part of the corner, whereas you were kind of aimed off over there, you can see my car's pointed much more where I actually want to go here. And obviously that means I can get on the power earlier. I'm not aimed over there. So it's even though I'm going a little bit slower on the way in, I'm about to go a lot shorter distance and then obviously a lot faster on the exit. Look how much earlier I can get back to full throttle, for example, just here.
Yeah. So the way I'm thinking about this is, remember earlier I mentioned like the first half of the corner, second half of the corner. But if I turn this corner into 4 parts,
Yep.
right? The second part of the corner you brake more again. Right? Like you feel like you have more
Yeah. Turn 1, you're braking the right pressure. You're just starting a little. I think what's happening here, for example, this is pretty normal. Because you're braking early for turn 1, you're actually going slower than me here, and you feel it. You're like, this feels a bit slow. So you get off the brakes, and that then causes you to go too fast when you need to be going slow. So it's kind of, I mean, as the lines are crossing, it makes sense, doesn't it? Like the bit you need to be going fast, you're going a bit too slow here, and the bit you need to be going slow, you're going a bit too fast. So actually, this is one of those weird ones where if you brake later, you'll be forced to brake longer, and that means you'll be going slow when you need to be going slow. So actually, being a bit more risky on the brakes will actually make it less risky in the middle because you're slowing down more. You won't be tricked into stopping braking too soon.
Right. Yeah. Just like the big corner, right? The last corner,
Yeah,
right? It's
yeah, I don't know.
more risky because I was like, hey, I'm already way too fast. Right?
Yeah,
Actually, that's what almost just turned the car
exactly.
into one.
Yeah, exactly. So that thing that on the face of it seems like a risk actually has it has two benefits. It has the benefit of, okay, by risking it, we're going quicker on the entry, and then we turn and we'll be quicker on the exit. So you get kind of two benefits. So,
Okay, I'll do look for the curtain as well.
yep.
Feel more risky, but I'll do the braking.
Yep, so later braking, but firmer, longer, down to first gear, get it round, and then the moment you're facing where you want to go, you can get on the power hard. And try and resist that temptation to increase the steering angle when it understeers. When it feels like it's understeering, even though you feel the car isn't turning enough, don't think the car isn't turning enough, so I should turn more. Remember, the car isn't turning enough because I'm probably going too quick for this much steering. So get it that little kind of extra nudge of the brakes, or just staying off the gas, whatever you need to do to get it turned better. You might find you're slower to begin with, because like I said, you might go too slow. You might underdrive it, but we have to kind of go that direction to perfect it. And one last thing before I stop talking, you're not that far off. Like, we're only just over 1 second away here. You're not looking for half a second in every corner. We're looking for a couple of tenths of a second in every corner. So it's not a huge difference here. If you find 2/10 in every corner, you've basically nearly matched me. So you're not looking for a massive change, just a little tweak in your technique here. So later, the very first thing to change is brake a little bit later, but make sure you still get it slowed by the middle of the corner. So brake later and get down to first gear. If you brake later and get down to first, you're probably going slow enough by the middle. You've probably done most of it. Though if you have to keep some things in mind, because you've got to consciously do it to begin with, it's those two things. A little bit later, that'll force you to be harder and get down to first gear, and then it should pivot better. So just give that a try.
Yeah, and also I think it's universal as almost for any corner that I need to practice that in my mind. That I feel like the car is understeering.
Yeah.
Turning more quickly on the wall.
Yeah, this is one of the best lessons you can have in virtual racing, real racing, go-karting, whatever. It's like one of the best things to have as a natural response. Don't turn more when you get understeer. Yeah. Lower minimum speed will let you get on the power earlier because you'll be facing the right way better. So try first gear here. And then remember, you don't need to do a big brake here, just a gentle one. Maybe on cold tyres, it needs it a bit more. Same with this next hairpin. We want to be down to first gear before you're into the corner, not in the middle of it. And then it means you can get on the power nice and early, because it just turns really well. Ooh, nice first effort there, Jing. I think your tyres are a little cold, and you still probably went in a bit faster than I do, but good effort. Remember, first gear as well for this one. Okay, that's all right. But you noticed that time, so that's a big step. Nice effort into there. Really good. And you can actually get back on the power earlier for that corner now because you're really good through the middle. So you've got plenty of space on the exit for that one now. Oh, nice. Okay, the only thing you did wrong there is you didn't slow it down enough. So you went in fast, you turned at the right point, the line looked good. We just didn't actually really brake enough. So you just never really got the car tight. Doing a great job though. This is good to see. Maybe just a little earlier braking for that one because we tend to go a bit too deep. And slightly earlier turn-in for that one. The key to that right-hander there is to get it turned pretty early. Otherwise, it just runs wide. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. That one is a bit different. Very, very different corner shape. Okay, so don't forget to actually get it slowed down. When you get to the outside, oh, nice. So that time, because you used the brakes more, obviously it tries to spin more. So, and that's probably why you don't brake very hard normally, because you know there's this reaction from the car. So we need to brake maybe not that hard, but we do have to slow it down enough to get it pivoted. We don't just want to be washing wide all the way through. But as you know, there's a risk of the rear coming around. So that's going to be down to your braking foot to judge that, just how much you can get away with. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But not if you go way too fast, though. Obviously, there's always a spectrum. And some things are not savable. Sometimes if you've just gone too fast or brake too hard, there's nothing you can do. But if it's only a small slide, then it'll be savable. So I think we're braking a little bit too early for turn one. That was actually not bad through the middle, but I think you can go 5 meters later for turn one. Yeah, we just need a little bit more braking on the way in. Because actually the entry speed looked okay, but it looked like you stopped braking a little bit too soon. Yeah. Ooh, nice. Yeah. Right, so there's this phase, when you brake late, it seems like you stop braking early. So when you brake late, don't forget you have to keep braking until the nose turns in. That's it. So just because you're braking later doesn't mean you can come off the brakes early, if you see what I mean. You've got to kind of do this extra bit. That was good though. This lap has looked good so far. So same as here. If you brake late, make sure you keep braking until the nose turns in. And then you can get it pivoted. Then you can get on the power early. Good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah, it looked like this lap you did it really well. Let's do a couple more like this where you really get a feel for that extra bit of braking. Ooh, nice. And I saw a nice correction there as well. Okay, so into this first corner. We still want to brake late, but keep braking until it turns where you want to go. Okay, better. Much better. Good. And that last lap was your quickest one. That's good. Nice. Well controlled. Well controlled. Yeah. Yeah, you don't have to keep braking with the same pressure. You saw with mine, I brake a little bit at the end. But because you're going slower, you only need a little bit. But you need something. You need something to keep the weight on the nose. Nice save, Jing. I like it. You're ready for the slides now. And it's cool because I can see you through your webcam as well, how you're catching them. It's good. So we can go later than that. We can go later on the brakes than that, as long as you keep braking as much, until you've got the nose turned in. Yeah, exactly. Yep. Don't forget first gear as well. But that's okay. It's still quick though. Nice. That was a good early turn in through there. And again, first gear for this one if you can. Yeah. So probably just needed a little bit more brake in that early phase, just because it didn't quite want to turn in at all. Okay, so later on the brakes, all the way down to first gear, keep the pressure on. Even though that last lap wasn't perfect, it was still your fastest lap you've done. So good job. So you're still improving, even though you're trying to perfect it. So down to first gear, try and get it tight, and then you can be early on the gas. Remember, this one's an early turn in. You can touch the curb. Good stuff. That was great through there that time. Excellent through there. That's exactly how to do it. Remember, get down to first gear on the way into the corner. I'll just give you more engine braking. Nice. And last thing then, into this fast right. Make sure you do enough braking when you brake that it pivots to where you need to aim. That's okay. Well done for recognising. I still think this is a quick lap. Okay, yeah, so you're still in the, this is still roughly the quickest you've been. So, well done. Okay, we probably went through the middle there a tiny bit too fast, but still made it. Still made it. Yes, exactly. Just to make sure it keeps going where you want to go. That was good. That was a good example of it. Okay, I know we went a little wide on the exit, but yeah, you're getting a real good feel now for the effect that touching the brakes mid-corner has, or keeping the brakes on. Weight transfer is everything. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I think that one, you basically just committed to quite an early turn in, and you just slowed down that little bit earlier. So let's do, what's the time? Let's do like another 2 laps. And then we'll make some notes on the data so you've got some things to keep in mind as you practice the rest of this week. Remember, it's an early turning into here. Good stuff. Okay, that's great. Really good through there that time. You're definitely getting like the muscle memory for that corner now. So don't commit to going to the inside early. Go round the edge and go faster initially. That's it. And then get it braked and turned. And then back on the gas. That was a decent effort. It wasn't perfect, but it was decent. That was a good run. So let's do another lap. Oh, look at that. Half a second quicker, Jing. Shows you when you get it right, it's massively quicker. So now you're under a second off me. Yes, I can see you're keeping the brake on better. And okay, maybe we got on the power a bit too early, but it's still quicker. It's still quicker. Well done. Yeah. Oh, well done. Well done. It's just then judging how much gas you can give it. Obviously, if you give it too much gas early... Oh, you went even quicker. Right. Great stuff. That's a good one to finish on, Jing. Yeah, obviously, if you commit to that hard gas a tiny bit too early, you then have to back off a little bit later. If you... Exactly, yeah. So if you'd done everything exactly the same, and you'd been a tiny bit more patient with the gas, so instead of going to, say, 80% throttle, you went to 50% early, then when you got to full throttle, you could stay there. But it's just because you committed a little too hard too early, you then end up going wide on the exit. But you were monitoring it the whole time. That's what's really good. You're not treating the corner as one input. You're treating the corner as a constantly changing thing. And just because you weren't wide 10 meters ago doesn't mean you're not wide now. You have to keep monitoring it, and your input has to change, especially when it's a long corner like that. And that's what you did. You committed to amount of throttle. You then thought, oh shit, I'm running a bit wider than I want, and you had to back off, and then you got back on. It wasn't like you didn't just commit and then run off the track and go, oh well, there's nothing I could do. So it's really good. That shows you've made quite a step in your like driver development, because there are tweaks going on during one corner. You're splitting it into more and more and more parts, which is good. And part of that is what we were talking about with the braking as well. So not just braking and then coming off and going through the corner. You can still improve on the car's attitude and on the line that you're going to be able to take with more braking inputs. And as you know now, if you brake too much too soon, you then don't have that tool, because you can't brake more. You've already done it. Yeah, you're already going too slow, and then you don't have the benefit of the weight transfer. So right, let's load that last bit of data, and we'll make a couple of notes. In fact, let's just put this in here. Yep. Here we go. Sorry, just making sure I spell this track name right. Tsukuba, I think that's what it is. And this is the skip Barber. Let's add you to this analysis. There we go. And now let's add in your laps. That was a real nice improvement though at the end. Really, really good. It's nice for me to, when I see the car staying tight to the inside of the hairpins and, you know, really rotating. I can't see your delta because I'm not viewing your screen, but I can feel it. I can feel it going green. You know. Okay, so your fastest lap from run 1 was that one. Add that. And I also want to add that other one. There we go. That one there. Exactly, because you're right. You can have a higher minimum speed, but it comes at a cost, and the cost is the distance that the car travels. You know, you're going to go further, and you're going to have to wait longer before you can get to full throttle, and you know your exit's not going to be as good. So, all right, okay, so exactly, exactly right. Let's have a look at. So green is the green was your fastest. Yeah, okay. So let's just make some notes as we go through. So we'll do them corner by corner. So you are now braking later for turn 1, but there's still even later you can go. So before you were back here, now you're here, and I'm here. So there's a little bit later. So let's start with that. We can still brake a little later for turn 1. But it will require some additional minor trail braking, because although you are braking longer than you were before and later, there's still more. So we can brake here and we can carry on braking here if necessary. So you can keep tweaking that line. And you can see still my minimum is quite a lot lower. And although your green line is now coming off the corner better than it was before, it could come off even better. So there's scope for slightly improved exit. So I'm going to say here, minimum speed, still probably a little too high. Which hurts the exit. But it's definitely better. It's not bad, and you're in the right gear. You know, you're down to first gear now. That's great. So it's just that little bit later. That means you can be faster all the way in the braking zone. You'll then sacrifice a little bit of speed in the middle, but then you're going to gain on the exit as well. And you know everything's rosy. So that's that. Right. Let's have a look into the hairpin. This is more like it. This is much more like it. Look at the green here. So you've moved your minimum speed way back here. Now you're quicker than me here to here. So on that exit phase, the problem is, although your speed is higher, because your minimum speed is so much earlier, that's prompting you to get on the power quite a lot earlier, because you're like, you know what, this is going really well. I'm tight, I'm facing the right way. You get on the power earlier, and then look what happens on the exit. You go off all the way over here somewhere. You're like halfway back to the pits and the dirt. And that's why, although your speed is higher than mine, here all the way to here, you're actually not really making a gain overall, because you're travelling like 20 metres further, and you don't get back over to the left in time, and it harms the next corner, because then you lose time through the next right. So you're better, but you can see on the GPS map here, although this bit's better, you're still giving away a lot on the exit there. So you're going faster than before, but actually just by going slightly slower in the inside, being a little bit more patient. You know, right at the beginning I said waiting longer on the throttle, just doing nothing can give you a big benefit. This is one of those ones. This is quite a stark difference between our exit lines here, and my one's quite a bit faster if you do that. So just be even more patient. You've done the hard work. All you have to do now is do nothing. Just stay off the gas until you're all the way around the corner, then get on the power, and then you'll come off. You won't go on the grass over here. You have an easier line into this right. So let's just put that on here. So simply be more patient on throttle. wait a little longer so you don't run as wide. It's simple. And the data, the data shows it quite clearly there, so that's cool. Right, next corner. So this is the 90-degree right. Now, what's interesting here is you screwed it up on this lap compared to some others. Look how wide you were because of what happened out here. Yet you were still way faster than before. So that's great. So what you're doing now is, although you're still doing quite a hard early brake, you're now carrying more speed through the middle and getting on the power earlier. So basically just turn in earlier, try to avoid this heavy brake. I'll write it here. Not that you're braking heavy, but relatively heavy. Yeah. It's the early turn in is everything. Being back over to the left earlier. So if you exit the hairpin and you're a bit further to the left, that'll make it easier. So being positioned here is one thing, because you're having to turn at a more tight angle than me anyway on that lap. But being over to the left and just turning in earlier, those are the main things, and that'll mean you don't have to turn as much. And when you look at, if I just take that corner start to finish, when you look at the steering angle, I'm using the least. I turn in earlier here, but in the middle I'm using way less, about half the steering angle you're using, because you're understeering and you're pushing through the understeer. I've just turned in early and a little, and that's it. So that's that one. So yeah, did I say there turn in early? Yeah, just turn in early and barely brake. There we go. That's that. Right, next part. So that's down there. That note. Next part into the next hairpin. How did this look? Okay, really good. Look at this. Look how much better you are on the entry. So you're braking later, you're braking longer, and you're getting a much better exit. This is way better. So in terms of lap time gain or loss, so you're 0.590. You're only losing a little bit to me now here. So this is the one corner I'd say don't change very much. This is pretty good. So let's not work on this too much. Keep doing what you're doing here. What you did on this lap, at least. Which is slow minimum speed. Brake until you don't need to brake. So that's what you're doing. Don't come off early. Yeah. And look how much better this was. Like, whereas before you did an early brake and then you stopped and then you sailed through the middle too quick. You ran wide. You were slow on the exit. Now you're going in way faster, braking much longer. You're on the brakes for a longer period of time, and you're much quicker. Like, just way faster. You're losing so much less time to what you did before. So that's good. Right, and then finally the last corner, you did really well on this lap. Really, like, you did it better. Even though we still probably went in a bit too fast, you managed to maximise what you did. But your sacrifice that you made, exactly as we spoke about, look, you've gone in faster, but then you've had to come off slower. So if you make that compromise there, you're going to then have to take the hit here. And as you can see with the green line here on your throttle, you had to lift. So there's still a slightly better compromise. So let's just look at the line. Even though you're a little bit wider, we still haven't approached this. You've gone near the edge and then you've kind of shied away from it. So still you can go right out to the edge in a way that we haven't yet done. You're kind of, in fact, let me just show, before we finish, I just want to show you what that looks like because it's more obvious here. Oh, I didn't mean to click that. So we start off similarly wide, but then, in fact, let's just change the view slightly, so you can see down the track a bit. So here we're like the same, roughly, but now you see where I follow the shape of the track at the edge, you've kind of cut it. I want to be out here for longer, and you've cut in, and so you see this black seam on the track here. That's where you are. And if I look at where my one was, I'm basically like following around the white line and then hooking back in. So let's just get to there. So here. So remember where you were relative to this black seam. So I'm like following the white line out here, and then crossing over. So I'm getting back. I'm not on the seam all the way. I go from the outside and then cut back across it, and it just makes this angle much easier. That's all. Whereas you had to back off somewhere here, because if you look at where my car is pointed, it's like almost facing out of the corner, whereas yours was a bit more over that direction. And that's all because of how wide the car is here. So that's the last thing. Don't, if you're, say you were going racing in half an hour's time, don't waste too much time trying to perfect that. If it's not coming, don't lose more time in a race because you're trying to be perfect through there. What you're doing here is a pretty good approximation. You're not losing really very much time, if anything, but it won't be as consistent, and you're having to lift on the exit. So although you're quicker here than I am through here, here to here, you're carrying more speed for sure. But your next lap is going to be affected. Look how much slower you cross the start line. So you're slower here to here and all the way to the start line on the next lap. So it's a little bit deceptive. It's not showing as much of a time loss here as you're actually losing, because you're not just losing on this lap. So all I'm going to say, I'll just write this note here. I'll leave it at this. You can still approach the corner from wider and give yourself an easier angle at the apex.
Yeah, when I look at yours, it's like, okay, how much closer, how much.
It's just it feels scary when you do it. You're like, I could run out of track here, and if you get it wrong, yeah, you're right. You go on the grass and straight in the wall. So you do have to make sure you get it right. But remember, I'm going way slower than you, so I think you've still got this kind of minimum speed in your head. In your driving brain, you're feeling like I need to be going this quick. Whereas I'm happy to slow it down more, knowing I'm going to get this nice benefit in a minute. A bit further into the corner. Yes, you're quicker than me now, but you won't be in a minute. So that it's just being happy to take the hit on that entry speed. But that's it. Like really, really. Oh, and also I'm one gear lower. I've just noticed this. So let's pop this here. I'm down to third, and you're staying in fourth. Just try third gear. It might be that on the line you're currently doing, you have to be in fourth. But by slowing it down to here, I'm going 10, 15 kilometers an hour slower than you. I need a lower gear, and that helps you drive off the corner better. But there we go. I hope that was useful, Jing. It was enjoyable. It was a nice run. You're only 6/10 off. You're just 6/10 off now. That's good.
Great. Next time I'm gonna pick an even shorter track. So
Amazing. I love it. I was trying to be nice, and you're just slating yourself. So, right, Jing, I'm gonna stop the recording. I'll get this up.